Welcome back to Unlocking Our Code podcast. Today, we're diving deep into unlocking your spiritual gifts, identifying what blocks them, the power of channeling, and how connecting to source energy plays a pivotal role in awakening your abilities and in our own unique journey. Tonight, I'm here with Lou, and I welcome back as well Letty Olguin, who is a QHHT practitioner, quantum healing. It's a quantum healing technique, all in the past life regression area. We also have the honor to welcome Callihan. She is an energy practitioner and guide and medium. Welcome, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Tonight's special.
Powerful.
It just feels special already.
Excited to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. And welcome back, Letty. You've already joined us before, and I know tonight is Kelly's first time and won't be the last. So we just welcome all of you. We embrace your power, your wisdom, all the beauty that you bring into our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Mm-hmm. Tonight, we do want to open up with spiritual gifts, like what are they, why people are not aware of them. But before we even dive deep into that area, let's start with our own unique journeys, right? How was there a time, Kelly, for you? You were a medium, energy practitioner, and Letty, of course, as well, where you were not aware that you had spiritual gifts at all. Like, I see you so powerful, so to me it's like, I don't think there was ever a time they didn't, but of course there was, right? So we'll start with you, Kelly. Yeah. How was that for you?
Well, I guess I had gifts, right? But as a young child, I was very sensitive. What I learned was I was a child empath. So that empath is somebody who feels energy from other people, other places. And I thought I was just like, almost like a crybaby. I was just really sensitive to everything around. I felt what other people felt, especially with adults. I would feel their anger or their sadness, and it was like incredibly intense. And I was always fearful. I had a lot of fear. And I just thought I was just really an emotional child. This traveled all the way through growing up as a teenager. I had so much trauma inside of me. At that time, I did not know what trauma was or empaths. And again, this continued into my adulthood. I was just really sensitive. I knew people didn't like me, or they didn't like I thought it was me, but before I knew about energy, people can sense energy. So I learned that either people did like me or they didn't like me. And again, I was drawn to psychics, psychic shows, psychic mediums. They were on talk shows all the time. I would sit there with my mom. We would watch them. She was into astrologies. I would read her astrology books. So I was always like pulled towards mediums. And then, so I would, read a psychic book here and there. And then when I was I just knew I felt different all through growing up. And I didn't understand why. And this is very lonely feeling, because I came from very large families on both my mom's and father's sides. They both had 13 each, so I was around a lot of family members all the time, and I could just feel their energy. And I just thought it was my own, but actually I was picking up my family members' energy a lot, and I didn't know it. But fast forward to after I had children, I was very fearful for them all the time, and I started to read more books and practice. And, to see if I had like these psychic abilities or intuition. And I would, start to hear things, and I was like really scared. I guess I should say that I did see images as a young child, but I did not realize what I was seeing. And so when this happened, I was afraid. And I would start to see, we lived in an older home after I had my children, and I would start to see forming images in the dark. And I would get so scared, I would like pull the covers up like a little kid because I didn't know what I was seeing. And I thought I was seeing ghosts, and I was very afraid. So then I really just kept kind of like testing things. I would hear things. I would always have vivid dreams. I've always had really vivid dreams. And so when I actually started again was in 2020 when we had the pandemic, and I started, learning how to read tarot. And that was what I would call a gateway to really opening up my gifts and reading oracle cards. And as I explored more and more, I started to connect actually with spirit. And as I read more and more books, took some workshops, it just, and I realized there were people like me, they were learning as I was learning. And this is how it just expanded. And the more that I talked to my guides, the more knowledge that came to me. And they taught me that I was a psychic medium. And then I had choices to make. And then I slowly started reading tarot for people. And then the gifts just kind of grow and they get stronger as you use them. And now here I am working with energy and hoping to help people to awaken to their gifts, because in my readings, I meet a lot of people who are learning that they are empaths and that their abilities are starting to come online. And I'm just there to help them, either grow a little bit and be confident and step into their purpose.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So powerful. So it reminds me so much of my gateways, of the doors that I went through as I was awakening my own, and I'm still awakening my gifts. I remember going through very similar, very almost to the T, similar experiences. How about for you, Letty? How?
Mine too. So as a child, I would have dreams and they would come true. And that was really scary for me. So for many years, I kind of shut it down, and just knowing things would happen. But I'm still fearful of it. So I'm still now trying to, accept it and allow it to come in. So I'm not, as lucky as you were to be able to, but
it takes time. Yeah.
And that's what I'm at. But so I'm open to everything that's, happening again. And so we'll see where it takes me on. So, yeah.
It's definitely a journey, right? It's not something, it's scary at the beginning. I remember my own journey began in 2020, and I remember feeling afraid. I was just afraid because I was first I discovered I was an empath. Then I was having visions. Then it was like I began reading oracles. But then I was like, where is all this coming? So I was remembering like having memories as a kid. Who was I as a kid, right? And I remember starting to connect the dots. Like I was an extreme sensitive child. I didn't even know that was a thing. I was a highly sensitive child. I have a son who's highly sensitive now, and because I got to see what that was in me, I was able to point it out on my children, right? And also, but I remember that as I was stepping into these kind of like tiptoeing into the gifts and like opening to messages, receiving downloads, writing messages, there was always this fear behind it all, like an extreme fear. Like I would step in and then step back because like, what is this, right? So we're all very much in our journey, right? And like Letty said, like I'm just excited to see where all of it ends up like going. And what do you ladies think it's the reason behind that fear that we feel, right? What do you think it's behind that?
Well, I think it's a lot of conditioning, a lot of fear of family, religion, and so many things, and we've just shut it down.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. Like, what kind of obstacles did you guys face when exploring your gifts versus versus your beliefs, right? At the beginning, it's like that. Am I really doing this? And what is it going against? What was ingrained in you guys as kids, and what kind of obstacles did you guys have to deal with as you guys explored, your guys' gifts?
Well, I feel like I was afraid. So I was afraid because I was raised Catholic, and I do remember a lot when I was growing up. One of my aunts, we would go to church, and she would say, well, the church is against astrology. The church is against tarot. And my cousin was asking her, why? Like, why can't we read astrology? Why can't we do that? And I secretly would, read those books and everything. So I was always afraid to share that. And I thought, because the church was saying they were sins. So I did not share this for a long time, my interests. And I still, when this was happening, I told my husband and my children, but I did not tell any family members. And then as I even started doing readings, I still did not tell like my husband's family or anybody. But slowly, when the door was open to things, I was able to, I read tarot for people. And, first they were like, oh, okay, and I've told, I just recently told my very religious family member that I was starting to, I read cards for people. And then she goes, like a medium? And I was like, yeah. You're a yes. And then she's like, well, I bet you that feels good for the people. And I was like, oh, yeah. So I think, my parents are both passed away. So I really just had to really come out to my aunts. And I'm sure she will tell my cousins. So
Yeah.
that was my fear at that time. And as you move forward and you just slowly start to tell, it doesn't have to be everybody at once, right? You just tell the people that in the moment you feel when the moment is right, and then you go with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I feel that, also I know there's waves that are going ahead and some that are following, we're the way showers in a way, right?
That's true.
So we have that position for a reason. It's a powerful position to have, right? But it is definitely scary as we're navigating that path, because we're always afraid of like, are we going to be judged? Are they going to understand me? Are they going to make fun of me? Are they going to, like, what is it going to look like, right? And actually, I think that it's good to experience to a certain degree. I've experienced a lot of that too, where they'll laugh, they won't believe me, they'll make jokes, they'll say like just things that are not nice. But then at the same time, I see how experiencing those things have helped me to stand in my own power and say, it's okay if they don't understand me. It's okay if they see it a certain way. It's like helped me gain strength to say, this is who I am, regardless whether you believe me or not. I have an open heart, and whenever they're ready, I'm here. I'm sure that that's the first person who they're gonna run into, right?
Exactly.
But it's hard at the beginning because, like Kelly said, I was also afraid, hiding, like not really wanting to share on social media. And I'm still very much there, still trying to find my way, how to make my presence online. And a lot of the conditioning plays in back, well, what are they going to think? And what are they going to say, So I feel like also those experiences of people not understanding us are leading us closer to owning our own power, for sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think like a lot of the, for me, it's been, it's like just yesterday I had a brand new client that came in, and she's I'm right before I start working on her, she's like, and she's like, I just want to let you know, I listen to your podcast too. And I was like, oh, you do? She's like, yeah, I do. And I was like, oh, she's like, I think it's so beautiful. And she's like, it's been so helpful for me. And she goes, I feel like it's exactly what I need to hear when I'm we're in the space that she's in, the time that she's in right now. And so I'm keeping those things in mind have been helpful for me, being able to talk about things where I'm no longer fear the rejection or the what are they going to think about me, about what the path that I'm on or anything, because I just keep thinking, like, at one point I was there where they're at, you know what I mean? I was very close-minded. I was not coming to my awakening, or I wasn't realizing who I was. I didn't know, you know what I mean? Just knowing me, like right. Who I am and remembering who I am. I didn't know that. So I just see people that are still looking at me, and I have a neighbor, and I call them, I call them friends, because I love them to death, even though they are, whomever they are, I don't mind, I just love people. But he said something like, Lou, you really believe all that shit that you say, And I thought it was funny. I don't think I got offended by it, but because I know exactly who he is, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I know exactly who he is, and I know where he's at, where he stands, and I can't judge him for not, I just can't judge him for.
We were all probably there.
Right.
Exactly.
What's so funny, because even like my family back in Mexico, they used to take my grandmother to go to these curanderos and all this stuff, and it's like the same thing, and that's how I knew about psychics, because we would go to one, and there was a famous one in Hollister for years, and so it's the same, but yet it's okay that in that way when it's not your family member, right. But keep it in the back.
Yeah. Or how about one thing that I've not struggled, but I kind of get often when it comes back to, like, bringing it back to religion, is when someone that is kind of curious but doesn't really know what it is, but has that feeling like, oh, it's brujeria or witchcraft, or oh, that sounds too dark for me, I'm just gonna stick to religion. How do you guys how do you guys get over that obstacle, that hurdle? What do you guys, and I want to hear both of your guys's, how you guys deal with that, if you guys have. But when people hear spirituality or spiritual awakening or anything like that, they're like, oh gosh, she's like dark magic or something like that, or black magic, or you know what I mean? And it's, and I've heard a friend say, I'll just go to church more often. Like, just like, what?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, most people who go to church don't really read what really is in the church.
Yeah.
So if you were to really go deep, you might not be there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's true. What would you guys say to someone that would say something like that and feel like spirituality is like, oh, it's like, that's for like witch stuff, that's dark, that's like dark magic? Nah, I don't want to go down that road.
When I first started reading tarot, I heard a lot of feedback in Old Town. People said, oh, that's the devil's work. Mm-hmm. Oh, she reads tarot. No, that's not good. She's connecting, she's a witch. She's like, and I say, yeah, there are witches, but I'm not a witch. And I just read energy. I don't tell the future. I just try to help people unblock what they may be feeling, and they don't understand why they are feeling this. And at first I was like, because everybody would say, oh yeah, witchcraft, voodoo, they make a joke. Mm-hmm. But then I realized that it was almost like a wound inside myself. Mm-hmm. So I had to let people think what they think, believe what they want to believe, and it's their way of protecting themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's something they don't understand. Mm-hmm. So after I realized that, and I became just true to myself, I do have to put a lot of protection on myself, though, mm-hmm. Because I am an empath, and I feel like when you're at a certain vibration, which is your beliefs and and how you portray yourself, that I feel like I'm going to get a lot of good back. And so,
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It's you're just coming from love, and you're wanting to help people. So that's the thing. There's no negativity in it. It's just
Right.
wanting to, help people,
Yeah.
yes.
heal. And how can that be bad?
Yeah.
It's
You're
just
absolutely right.
Yeah. I feel like also it's like people that are like in their own web still, right? Of conditioning, beliefs, trauma, because trauma in itself, and it all depends on the level of trauma, right? Trauma will create a huge amount of blockages for you to see clear in general, right? If your chakra system's blocked completely, you're not able to perceive that information in any type of helpful way. You just kind of perceive it from a low vibration, right? If the person's in fear and stuck in shame and all these lower vibrations, then they're perceiving that information directly from that point. But at the same time, I feel like it also serves us, right? Because like you said, it's pointing at a wound that we still need to work, right? Where do I still need to claim my power? Where am I still believing that this is coming from a taboo place, or where's certain conditioning within me, right? Which I think it helps both, I think, right? Like just to kind of understand that, yeah, people sometimes can perceive that the information from a lower place, but hey, that's their choice, right?
Yeah.
exactly.
One of the other things that we deal with about our gifts, besides conditioning, religion, is also like, again, our own trauma, as well as like, so past lives. So what they call the witch's wound, which is an experience you may have had in your past life. And they term it witch's wound because you may have been a witch in a past life when it was more something that was, a lot of natural gifts at that time, and people referred to them as witches. But you could have been a shaman, you could have been a healer, you could have been anything. And so there's that fear, and it's called like a fragment that you bring from that past life, and that is actually in this life too. And you're dealing with that, and you're not understanding why, but it is from a past life. It's something that you're carrying in this life because you're going through a same experience that you did in another life. So you fear your gifts. You fear stepping out in front of people because maybe you were stoned to death.
Yeah.
Maybe you were locked up.
Yeah.
Maybe you were burned at the stake.
Yeah.
And you feel that trauma now. And but the first part of that is actually sometimes when you can go to an intuitive who can go into your past lives, or somebody who reads Akashic records, and you can, or past life regression, and you can see where that trauma has come from. And that is another part of unblocking your gifts.
Yeah.
And if somebody was to be carrying that past life wound, right? How can each of your works support that person? So for example, if someone came to you or someone came to you, Kelly, how can you each support that person in working through that wound that they're carrying from a past life?
So when I was learning about, first I delved into Akashic records. I've read a lot of books and did the techniques of reading Akashic. So I would read my own, and I have read a couple of friends. And the teachers would say that once they are aware of that, what they experienced in past life, you can learn to heal from that, just being aware of that. But when I worked with the past lives, I learned to do somewhat of an energy clearing, that when you see the past life that is kind of having a pattern now, I do my best to clear it. So I would see how much percentage that you are dealing with in this life, and I will clear and remove and delete and help that person to ease that burden.
Okay.
But the thing about it is many people have numerous past lives. So just because I'm seeing one or two of them, it may not clear the entire thing. But there are people, that you can come back for different sessions, or that, stronger people that know how to clear, all those past lives at once.
Yes.
But yeah.
How about in your level of work?
It's similar. So when we do a hypnosis technique and we were able to see, let's say they were a witch or they were stoned, and then you're able to tap into the subconscious mind and ask, is this still serving them in this timeline? Mm-hmm. And if it's not, then you can ask for it to be healed. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it serves a purpose, and you may continue with that pattern until you realize what you're still having to work through. Mm-hmm. So, but that's when things we do ask, are we able to clear it now?
Nice.
But it's pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. And I had a past life where it was something similar. So that's probably why my voice, I've always had a fear of speaking my truth for a past life that I've had.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, I can just imagine what we all experienced. One of the ones that has came up for me is being seen, like just the fear of being seen. And that's always something that I've had to work with. And I've always felt like this is not just now. This is coming from somewhere deeper, right? So, yeah, for somebody that is, wondering how they can do some of the clearing, this is some of the stuff, because there's much more techniques too, but that they are available for them to look deeper into that, right? I also wanted to go into energy work for spiritual growth. I wanted to see if you wanted to touch on what is energy work for those that don't know what energy work is.
Okay, so we would say that everything that we encounter is energy. And so especially so we're all feel energy at a certain level, all the way from 10% to 100%. So there's people at different levels. So when you are an empath, you will pick up energy from other people, other places, and workspaces, and that kind of like it gets attached to you like statically, like the energy just kind of sticks to you, and you can carry that with you. So what you want to do is get your energy cleared. There are different ways to do that. It's better when you learn techniques for yourself. So if you need to go to people to learn this, but there's several ways that people can clear their energy.
Are you able to share a few can you each share a few that you've used? Like one that you say, this is a practice that I use to protect my energy, for example.
It's literally the question that I just wrote down right now. What are some sample practices that our listeners can do, maybe on a daily, so they can do even to protect their energy as they're going into something, or
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So one of the strongest energy protection, it's called the Universal Energy Shield of Protection. And it is 3 layers of light. It is the blue energy of power, golden light of wisdom, and the pink light of love. So I do that all the time, and I do it so naturally that it takes me a moment too. So I always tell people, do the 3 layers, the universal protection, and when you're going out, if you're very sensitive to energy, I do that every day. I do it for my children, and it's something I also call on Archangel Michael for his blue cloak of protection, and ask them for, protection of myself, for my families as they go about their day and their travels. And when you feel you're in a sensitive, like you're heading out into the public, or you feel somebody with strong energy, you do that energy protection right away. Whenever you feel that you need it, you also can call on Archangel Michael 3 times, and he will always be there to protect you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Kelly. How about you, Letty? What is
For me, it's balancing my chakras. So, I'll put a light through I'll visualize the light through my chakras, and that kind of raises my vibration and just does a protection. Mm-hmm. Same thing, similar, like a shield, but and it just aligns everything starting from, the crown and down.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Yeah, I feel like having those practices daily, they're just crucial. I don't think that anybody should go a day without doing some type of cleansing, even if it's a small prayer at night. Remove any energy that is not mine, send it back with love, protect your children, your partners, yourself. It's important, especially if this is as an empath, right? Where we are picking up energies all the time, reading people all the time. Like it just happens naturally. Sometimes it's not that we even want to do it. It's just happening naturally, right? So it's like so important, I think, for people to be aware that there is techniques to protect themselves and to cleanse their energy, their homes as well. Also, how can your energy work, Kelly, support someone in their internal journey? Can it help with trauma, clearing trauma that they have, the level of energy work that you do?
So what I work on is when people come to see me, they actually carry a lot of energy cords. So energy cords are when we encounter with somebody. So any kind of emotion that you feel, you just get hooked. You just get hooked from somebody. Yeah. And then you carry those with you because you don't understand that you can clear them. So you get hooked. So I will clear people's energy cords. I will do a quick energy clearing of the chakras using earth energy. But when I go into a more detailed work, I'll do aura padding, psychic surgery, and then I will do energy work for any kind of pain, discomfort, the best that we can, as well as then I call on angelic energy to clear the chakras. And when we do that, it's amazing that a lot of people feel lighter after the session, like their burdens, they don't feel as burdened. And then I check with them after a couple of days because the first time somebody does it, they actually feel very exhausted. So they're like purging over the next couple of days. But when I've done it to people like a second or third time, they actually feel better. And you continually to, I also feel that it can also help with opening your gifts over time, the more that your chakras are coming more online. Yes.
I could see that, definitely. Yeah, that'd be awesome, huh?
Yeah, I recommend everybody to try it for sure. Yes. I've gone through both. I've been doing a meeting with Kelly for a while already, and I've gone through episodes where I purge. It throws me in that journey, and I go through it and I deal with what I have to do. But then lately, like the most recent one I had, I just felt amazing. Like I could just fly. Like I felt so good, so light. I felt so empowered. Like there's nothing to be afraid of. Just, do what you're meant to do. But like she said, whenever it's time for you to face something and go through it, you will go through the waves. And then it works both ways. So just being ready for whatever comes your way and accepting that that's where you're meant to go through at that time, right? So Letty, how about your work? How does your work support people on clearing trauma? How does that fit into their journey?
I think they're able to see the patterns, and if they're able to clear it, then it helps them move forward. And I think it's just, getting rid of whatever happened maybe in a past life that doesn't have to keep on, affecting them in this life. So it helps them move forward, and then it increases the more fulfillment and being happy and confident, and they have deeper connections. And so just by clearing a lot of that.
Yeah. I feel it's very important to know what it's like an eye-opening, I think you mentioned it earlier, but once you know what causes or why you are where you're at, or what trauma or what pain or why you reacted, even if it's something ugly, but you understand where it comes from, it's just a lot easier to move forward and to heal from that. Like you mentioned, it's just knowing where it comes from. It's actually healing in itself, because we're no longer having that battle with ourselves. Like, why am I this way? Well, some people don't even ask them. Some people don't even reach to the level of why am I this way, right? Because it's somebody else's fault always, right? But when you start reaching to the level of self-awareness of like, well, why do these things bother me? Or why am I always acting this way? But then you start to understand where it all comes from. It's easier for you to, move forward or to heal or to have more compassion for yourself. Therefore, it comes into like having more compassion for others. So, it's extremely helpful to understand what is affecting you today, and why. So I could see how all that would be helpful.
I would like to say that healing is like a lifetime journey.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
We are always, learning. It's always evolving. Another thing that I do find that people, when they are blocked, it's because they've lost a connection. And that connection is to our inner selves. It's also, they've lost a connection to our Mother Earth. And, we are so, I want to say polluted, but with electronics. But just things that keep us out from the fresh air, from grounding. And that brings us into the present moment. So if people do want to connect, they want to come back to themselves. They want to lower their anxieties. They do want to take the time to make a practice for themselves and just to be out in nature. So that all of that energy that is just clouding them, is constantly around us, that people can get anxieties or, their mind is whirling. Step out into nature. Start to ground. Start to take the time for yourself so that your downloads, your inner self can speak to you. And you can feel a little more connection to peace of mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Super important. I do want to step into connecting to source. I'm so excited about this topic because I do want to bring some awareness to what is source. People probably are well, what is that, right? So for those that don't know what source energy is, I have a definition that I just looked up and wrote, but I also want to hear your ideas. Source energy is the universal life force that connects all beings, a divine energy that is present everywhere. There isn't a place, a moment, and nothing can ever not represent source energy. So what is it for you ladies? How do you see source energy?
Pure love.
That's beautiful, yes. Our source is the one that connects us all together. It's funny to say we're divided, we're each individuals, but actually we come from the same source. Our soul, our spirit it wasn't just created here on earth. So the creator is all one. So if you have ever looked up Matthias de Stefano, and he can explain things because he remembers all his lives, and he is on the Gaia channel, and he will, if you watch, he will say that we were created from one source, and there's nothing that separates us really for what it comes down to. But the most beautiful term is love.
Beautiful. Why do people get quote unquote disconnected? Because I don't believe people can ever disconnect from that energy. It's just the mind can believe that it's disconnected from source energy. What happens? Why do we tend to drift off for a while and then eventually I feel like everyone at one point in their life will make the connection back to source, right? But there's a part in our journeys where we drift off maybe from that energy. We don't even think about those things. I know for me, there was a part of my life where I didn't think of that or was aware of that at all. I knew there was a God, but my definitions of that was very limited just to what I thought. it was, or whatever I was conditioned to believe that it was, right? What do you ladies feel like is the reason why that happens?
Well, like we mentioned before, like it comes to conditioning. It comes to how we were raised by religion. It comes to our disconnection from Mother Earth and our present moment. Just many things that we believe only in what we see, because we were also trained in school that we were taught things in the history books that are not true.
Right.
And we were just given the storyline, and we lost a connection many generations back in the American culture. I'm sure there's a lot in, other cultures where they have brought it down, but in my family line, we lost the connection of the mediumship. It came from one of my family lines, but we were disconnected in a way that we were trained to work, put in, work the land, work under the government. And there are so many things when you go into it deep, how we were disconnected from our inner selves.
Yeah.
And it has to do with also our food. So how chemicals were put into our food that were not natural. And it does disconnect you from what has, our true gifts.
Oh,
For one of the aspects.
Yeah. It's true. We forget that we are all one, like you said, and it's all the fear-based mind control and everything. But if we were just it's at birth too, because when you're being birthed, you leave the mother, and then you think you're alone, and that's what starts the whole spiral to feeling alone and separate and not unloved.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one more thing. We also lost the connection of our natural healing. So we were separated from how we should heal naturally by, pharmaceuticals and medicines. Sure, they were there to help us in a temporary thing, but now people are using them throughout their life, and they're not naturally healing. And that's another thing that, has separated us from, our
so
true
true.
gifts.
And that's so true, because even when, like, the other night I had a mild headache, and the first thought I was like, oh, let me grab something, But since I've been starting to use the tuning forks with the energy, I said, I don't have to grab the medicine. Let me grab my tuning fork. And I grabbed it, and I did work on myself. Gone.
What's funny, because we were in Mexico 2 weeks ago, and my husband had a horrible stomach ache. Horrible. And he was like, take me to the hospital.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was in the middle of the night. We were in Puerto Vallarta. And he looked at me. He goes, "Hun," he goes, "you need to help me." And I'm like, okay. But it's so interesting how when I started, I got, I heard, you need to forgive him. And that was my mess. So then I was able to go in and put my hands on his stomach, and within a half hour, it was gone.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, "Oh my God, hon, thank you." But it was weird because I heard, okay, you can do this, but you have to,
Yes.
because I was harboring some anger for him a couple days before.
You're like, no, don't do the work on him if you're still angry.
Yeah.
You're going to do something else.
Like, the pain's gonna get stronger.
It's going to get stronger. You're really going to have to take him to the hospital now.
But
So
that's
forgive him
beautiful.
first. I love that.
He's always
Letty.
my guinea pig for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just always so open to everything. That's the thing. That's probably why I'm able to do this, because there's no judgment. And, that's...
Just like there's no judgment for people that use medicines. I
Yeah,
mean,
for sure.
doctors are here to help heal the collective, We just have to be aware of that a lot of our sicknesses, a lot of our diseases, they are started from a spiritual trauma. And too, so, just know that when you do, you take your medicine, it doesn't have to be forever.
Right.
Yeah.
by changing your
I love
lifestyle.
that.
Yeah.
I love that right now. I feel that that's something that it's a message I've been sharing a lot in the last couple of weeks. Just how anxiety and stress and always being on that, kind of like on that type of, frequency can not only cause like despair in your life, but can also cause like physical illness. And I just been sharing it so often in the last 2 weeks, because my neighbor passed away last month, and he passed away from cancer, and his wife. I've just been like looking at her, and I'm seeing how his last month that he was in hospice at home, she was just, not herself. I used to see her walking every single day. Like together. They were always together. They would walk like about maybe 4 times a day with their dogs. And then, obviously he got sick, so he stopped coming out. And so she was just taking care of him. And so now I don't even see her coming out walking anymore, just because I know she's been, so in the state that she's in. But anyways, her daughter told me that now she was diagnosed, her cancer came back too, which was already gone, and it came back. And so she was told on February 14th that her cancer returned. And this is like a couple of weeks after her husband passed. And so it just makes me think, like, yes, under all that stress that she's in, under all that sadness that she was in, watching her husband just like, go slowly slipping away from her, it had to be a cause of why, her body got sick again. And so I just been, telling my mom, I've been telling my husband, like, this whole stress, stress and anxiety, you guys need to figure out, obviously where it comes from. I know sometimes it's a little deep for the family to hear, like, where is your anxiety really coming from? They're just kind of like, because I don't have money, or because of my work, or because of my
money's
kids.
Energy, so
Right?
you can create it very easily.
No, I totally understand that. But it's just like, for me, I can say like, well, let's get deeper and deeper. But for them, that they're just,
Yeah.
Anywho, I think that's my point, is that, yes, trauma and, what our emotions are like, and if the state of mind that we always want to stay in is not only hurting you mentally or emotionally, it's also physically affecting your body. So healing from whatever it is that's causing it is so important.
Yes.
That we question, right? Like, especially when there's one of my sisters recently came to my house, and she was like, she's struggling with something, and she's like, I went to the doctor, they're not finding anything, they did all the tests, and I'm so uncomfortable. She was just struggling the whole week with it, right? And they're saying there's nothing they could give me, there's nothing. So I was like, okay. I was like, well, I can help if you are open, and she was like, at this point, I'll do anything. She was like, right? I was like, okay, lay down. And I used my tuning forks on her. And that night, the discomfort went away.
Wow.
And she was shocked. She was like, I cannot believe. I was like, sometimes it's in your energy. I was like, sometimes, a lot of the times actually is there. So especially when the doctors are saying there's nothing coming on your lab. So I kept checking on her every day. Hey, are you okay? She's like, it's cleared. It's gone. She's like, I cannot believe this.
Yes.
So sometimes just being open, right? That there is things in the energy field, that there is stuff that we could question, right? And that we can take other avenues when certain things are not working. And for her, it was eye-opening. She was just shocked. She's like, I can't even believe that this happened. I was like, yeah. So just being open-minded also helps, right? Just being open-minded that there is other healing methods, and there is people out there that could offer certain help, like what you did with your husband, and then like just everything. There is stuff out there to support us. Right?
Yes, and it is important to say that the person has to be open to the energy, because there are people that you can do a modality of healing on them, and if they don't accept it, if their energy doesn't believe in it, they can, not be helped.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally agree. That's what I told her. I was like, are you open?
Yeah.
I was like, and the most important thing out of all is that you believe. I was like, if you don't believe, you won't see a change. She's like, I believe. Because sometimes we're just like desperate. Like we want to feel good, right? So, but I think it's just beautiful that there is all those modalities that can support us if we are open-minded to the modalities that are out there to support us. How do you ladies think that connecting to source daily can help us in our journey? So like, let's say there is someone who is struggling a lot, right, in a lower vibration, and they begin just connecting to source. Let's say that's the step they take. They say, I'm going to begin connecting to source. They might or might not know what it is, but they just make the conscious decision that whatever this higher power is, they want to connect to that higher power. How can that help that person?
Well, I just know that I always felt alone. And before I was able to really understand that I wasn't alone. Mm-hmm. You have an actual spirit team with you all the time. You have your spirit guides that change out through your lifetime. You have guardian angels. You have anybody that you want to call on in the angelic realm, in the saints. When they will not come or they will not interfere unless you ask for their help. Mm. So once you learn and you start to acknowledge that, then you will start to understand that once you start connecting, you start to feel safe.
Yes.
You release that fear and it's not as scary anymore. And that is the truth, how just opening your eyes and opening your heart to source and to your spirit team can help you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. They're so spot on, right? How do you feel?
The same.
Like, yeah.
I mean, knowing that I'm, connected to source, I feel more empowered. I feel more confident. When I have the ups and downs, it's not like where, you go into those deep states of depression or loneliness. It's just a moment and you snap out of it. And you're able to ride, the ups and downs of life without getting involved with all the, media or whatever. But you just feel, it's peaceful. It's like a peaceful place to be because you feel safe. And I never used to feel safe. So that's something that is just really empowering for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For someone that is not, that doesn't understand, like we said, doesn't necessarily know or doesn't feel like they relate to anything, how would you say that they can, what can they do on a daily to be able to connect to sources? What can they say? What can they do to be able to connect with source?
So for those that have trouble meditating, I've heard a lot of people say,
yes,
I try to meditate and I can't.
Mm-hmm.
My mind, it keeps going and I start drifting off. So if you really want to start journaling, because it's a lot easier to start writing down what you're feeling, talking to your spirit team and just telling them and releasing your emotions, your worries, your fears. Also prayer, even though, people think, oh, that's religion. It's not. Mm-hmm. When you pray, you are speaking to source. You are speaking to your spirit team. Your passed on loved ones. They hear you, and your prayers and what you speak, it connects you.
Yeah,
I know that.
Same thing for me. It's a daily way. It's a way of living now. And every morning, I give gratitude. I'm grateful, and I align myself every morning. And it takes about 10 minutes before I even get out of bed. And you just, tap in, you close your eyes, and you just, send unconditional love, and and it's just a moment of just you and source daily. Mm-hmm. And it's
beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, and it's important, right? It's so important that we make, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, right? That we have daily practices where we are connecting to source, whether it's through writing. Some of the ways I do it is through writing. I'll just talk to source, like if it's next to me. Mm-hmm. I'll release everything. I'll say what I'm going through, and not like Source doesn't know what we're going through, but I just kind of feel comfortable speaking it out loud, and it brings me comfort. Like Callie said, that was huge. Like, it helps you feel safe, which is, it creates that safety net so that we can proceed from there and then just embark on our own journey, right?
Like that feeling of I'm alone in this. And like, no, you're not, you know. No. And one of the things that we've done, we talk a lot about on this podcast when we're talking about Source, because I know you mention it often, and you've said things like Source can be God, it can be the universe, whatever you think, but it's a higher power, right? So it's however you want to put it, right? Would you guys agree that that's spot on? Okay. Yes. So yeah, because we've mentioned it before, and we mentioned God, we mentioned the universe, we mentioned, the spirit guides, the guardian angels. So those are the things that, for our listeners that are kind of still in that, so limbo, what is it, it's whatever you want to name it, but it's a higher power, right? Exactly. And that is exactly what we're discussing right now. So
yes. So with that being said, I did want to touch a little bit on one of the powerful gifts, which is channeling. I love if we can give a little bit of information on channeling, what it is. Can we all do it? Is it a gift that we all can tap into? And how has channeling helped you ladies in your journey? Because channeling has been, huge in my journey, and I want to hear how it's been like for you.
So channeling, I wasn't sure about it. I just knew that, when I first started speaking with my guides, how did I know what voice I was listening to? Was I listening to my ego? Was I listening to my spirit guides? So that's your first hurdle when you are talking to your spirit guides and your spirit team. How do I know? Well, it's a feeling, basically. When you are first speaking, and if it's like a negative, low vibe talk, that's your ego. It could even be, when you are actually highly intuitive or a medium, you can pick up spirits. Yeah, it's true. So yeah, you're going to resonate when that voice is full of love, when they are encouraging, when they are telling you, good things, positive, that is when you're connecting. I started channeling, and I just didn't know I was channeling my spirit team, or when I started to learn how to, connect with past loved ones of others, it was all new. So I'm basically going through this, and I'm first just seeing visions. So a lot of it is just visions for me. Then it was automatic writing. And then it was during deep meditations, somebody stepping forward, like an archangel or, a saint. And that is mind-blowing. You're like, how is that possible? I mean, why am I able to do that?
Yeah.
But, you feel, you resonate, and that it's true. It's this deep feeling, it's this deep connection. So that's been my experience with channeling. How about you?
Yeah, and I think anybody can channel. It's just, but for me, it's something new for me too. That's I've been, experimenting with. But it's also my first time was when I was in Mount Shasta, and it was just the most amazing thing that came in, the elementals and just the energies being in that mountain. But it's still something new that I'm still, learning and tapping into, and I'm excited, but new for me. Yeah.
And I just think that it takes practice. You always want to put layers of protection on yourself when you are doing the channeling or when you're speaking to your guides. Just that you want to speak only those that walk in God's heavenly divine light, who love you unconditionally, so that you are stating, this is only who I am communicating with. This is who I am allowing into my sacred space. You don't want to pick up low vibrational energies, which is possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had an experience not that long ago when I was in Vegas in the hotel we were staying. there was a lot of energy in the hotel. And there was a night where I couldn't sleep. Like I was just not, I was uncomfortable, and I started sensing, okay, there's something's going on. So I get up and I start hearing like that there's all these energies that want to talk to me, right? And I said automatically no. I said, no, I'm not here to talk to you. And no, thank you. You got to leave.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That's all you got to do. You don't have to engage with every energy that wants to step forward, because if you're open like that, you know, that could lead you to a whole different way. You have to be extremely, like Callie said, protective of your energy, who you're speaking to, who you're allowing, always saying only beings of light, you know, to whatever comes up in the way that you do it. But one of the biggest hurdles, like you said, is knowing when the ego is speaking. That was like my first, like, for me, it's new too. I still practice it. I'm not like 100% like still comfortable. But I remember that when that started happening, I was like confused, like, well, who's speaking? Like, is it, who is it? And then that's when I learned, well, I heard Source say, when it's me, I will not speak in a low vibration ever. Not even one word will be low vibration. Or when it's your ego, the ego just wants to be right. It wants validation. It wants all of that. So I started distinguishing, right? I had a family member who was telling me, oh, spirit told me blah, 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 blah. But she was saying negative like things. And I said, that's not spirit. That's your ego. She's like, what? And I was like, yes, spirit will never speak to you in low vibrational words or put you down in any way, you know. So it's like Callie said, learning to practicing so that you can learn, who is it? Is it my ego? Is it like what's coming through, right? I'm just fascinated by channeling. I think that the more I see others do it, for me, the more I see others do it gives me more and more permission to like do it myself and practice. But yeah, there's still, I think, definitely beliefs there of like really, like, is that what you're gonna do? Like stuff like that, you know, that I'm still working through. But now that we are in the topic of channeling, I know that Callie is very gifted in that area. We all are, but she practices more than we do. And I do want to ask if you're open to sharing a channeled message tonight with the audience. I know that whoever wants to come through will come through, of course. Source, if we can ask a message from Source, or
Okay.
you know, we can't be like only that. So
Yes. It will take me a moment.
Yes.
And I will see what comes through. Sometimes it's a visual first.
okay.
And then some guidance. Okay, so I kind of will tap in to the collective energy. That's something I tap into regularly to help, bring guidance and a message. So if you'll just give me a moment, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am seeing that as a collective, we are walking through very cold and chilled wind. This tells me this is air energy, and we are walking through this energy of so much coldness that we feel somewhat alone with the information that we are bombarded with. How can we separate from this energy? So taking moments of stillness, of separating to where we can close out this energy of, it's like a storm energy that is surrounding the collective. And when we separate this, when we ground, when we pray to our spirit team, we are able to bring ourselves into the present moment and to connect with the truth and the clarity of our experiences. We can protect ourselves from this outer energy. We merely need to ask our spirit team, our angels, for our protection, for the guidance to come through, to be open to their messages. We are at a time of great change, and there will be much fear, because it is a collective fear that we are somehow connecting with through the news, through the media, through the people that surround us. But the more that we take in our own energy, that we bring it to our Mother Earth, to nature, we are able to separate from this collective fear. The true guidance will come from within us as we connect to our heart. We are not alone. We are always surrounded by our spirit team, those who love us unconditionally. You can create a safe space for yourselves, for your loved ones. You can separate from timelines. Know that all is well. Know that there is nothing to fear. You are truly protected when you connect with your source energy. When you connect through your spirit team, you may call on for protection for yourselves, for your loved ones. Do you have any questions?
What are some ways people can clear any of that density at this time that they feel surrounded by?
I am shown water cleansing. It's not always easy, but true water cleansing in the ocean and lakes are highly recommended. However, cleansing in your homes, your water is sacred. You can use it for cleansing the energy that you pick up throughout the day and bringing more balance to your inner state.
Thank you so much for the message. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow. So beautiful. I'm like left speechless.
Yeah, it definitely feels like, I'm not alone. And it's a beautiful message to remind me to continue to connect to whenever I'm feeling when I'm in that doubt, where I literally envisioned like a blizzard all around me, and just being able to connect and just letting it just clear off, Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a daily reminder for me for sure, because I'm just now doing that, and it's something that Devi mentions to me, and she keeps reminding me, and so I'm just now doing it, and I have to say I feel lighter. I feel almost like not untouchable, but almost like that freedom, like, you know what I mean? And it's just, I just can't explain it. I can't explain that sense of happiness, or I don't know if it's safety. I don't know what it is, but it just, I feel so like I'm like, so just, I'm me, and I'm free, I guess,
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Something that I've never felt before. And I thought I wanted to be, but I was so unhappy,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing. And for anyone who's listening and has those questions, they're going through their, they're starting to realize things or question certain things. I just invite you guys to do these things daily. And it doesn't even have to be like a long process. It can just be a very minimal, but very intentional. I guess that's the word. Be intentional about it,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very powerful. The one that stuck out to me was that I can separate from the timelines. That when you said that, it like hit me. Like,
That's
it's
beautiful.
okay. You can separate from those timelines. So I'm definitely going to go back home, connect to source, and separate myself from the timelines of chaos, of fear, of low vibrations, and then just understanding that it's okay. Like, it's okay to let go. It's okay to let go of those timelines. I don't have to exist there just to feel like I'm a part of something.
Yeah.
You know, I can separate from the timelines and still be me. Like, I felt like a permission slip of like, you could still be you in your own timeline that you wish to exist on, right? And I feel like that's such a powerful message for all the listeners, right? You have permission to separate from the chaos as well. You don't have to be attached to the chaos, to the fear, whether it's the world's fear and the world's chaos, or whether it's family, right? Because family, like for me, comes up a lot. Whether it's the family chaos and the family fear, you could also step out of those timelines and still love your loved ones from your own timeline. No one will stop you from loving them. It just means that you no longer exist on the same timeline, right? And just for me, that when you said that was really powerful, because it, like I said, it gave me that permission slip to,
very
it's okay.
freeing.
You could exist. You could exist on your own timeline.
It's very freeing to be able to have that awareness. Because you know what, I've seen a lot now that I get like, you know, the algorithm, and it sends you all these like quotes about healing or spiritual awakening, and just like really good quotes that make me feel really good. And then one of them had something similar to that, where it said like, you don't have to like play a role in I can't remember exactly how it said, but like in the state that we're in, you don't have to play a role in that. And you can, like, similar to that, like you can separate from that. And some comments were like, this is ignorant. How do you separate yourself from what's actually happening? You see people are dying, and or if you feel or something along the lines like, how are you going to act like this isn't really happening and see that, you know, worlds are like the countries are being divided and such and such. And it kind of put it created a little dent in the little bubble that I was in, that kind of like my doubt came in. Like at the same time I was like, wait, I don't want to act like this isn't happening either.
You can acknowledge it, but just not, you know,
like live and stay there,
exactly.
right? Yeah, so that's one of the things that I was like, okay, well, I see that a lot. I see like a lot of people fighting where they're in that state of mind, but then these people are like, how could you be in that? And you're just like, oh, you know?
Yeah. It's not that we don't care, you know, it's not that we don't care about what's happening in the world. Of course we care. We care so deep that we choose to stand up even in the middle of us feeling the fear and whatever is it that we're feeling because of what we see. And we choose to stand in a different timeline so that we can pray, so that we can raise the world's vibration, so that we can understand it from a higher perspective, not to ignore it. Because even if we wanted to ignore it, we can in our mind try to ignore it, but we feel it deeply. We feel what's happening in the world, right? So it's like, to me, that's the way I see it. It's not that we're ignoring, of course not. It's that we're choosing a higher perspective of the situation. And at the end, we don't really know the truth of what's happening under all the events. If people really looked into, because I've gone that path, I've gone through the path of why is certain things playing the way they are, you'd be shocked of why certain things are playing the way they are. I mean, there's parts of lands that are still paying karma. There's still, there's much more information of why certain events are playing in the back end, but it's all leading us to a higher perspective. It's all leading us to a new world of love. Whether it seems like it's love right now or not, the path is the path, right? But I mean, I can understand how people can perceive it in different ways. That's just like the way I perceive it, right? I don't ignore it, of course not, but I don't want to be a part of of the chaos or build or feed it more.
Right.
Well, I don't watch the news. I haven't watched it in a couple years, and I feel happier. There's no fear. There's no just that you're in it, and it's not healthy.
I think it's important to know that we are, even though we are aware of the events that are happening across the world, us feeding into that fear of that pain is not helping the collective.
No.
So how can you help your collective? And it starts with your community. What can you do for your present community? What can you do in your neighborhoods? What can you do where you're right there?
Exactly.
And that is part of my purpose, is like, I may not reach, at this time, far distances, but I can help who I can reach here.
Exactly.
That's right.
That's more powerful.
So powerful. Oh my God. Well, this has been such an amazing conversation. I mean, I learned so much tonight. And as always, we invite our listeners to reflect on all this information. Listen to it a couple of times, because every time you listen to it, you'll get something new. I promise you that. But yeah, just reflect on all the information. What's blocking you from embracing your spiritual gifts? What's blocking you from connecting to source, right? And we hope that if this episode helps you in any way, that it's just an invitation to get to know yourself better, to connect to those parts of you that are there, and they're waiting. They're not going anywhere. They'll wait until you're ready, and that's the beauty about this, right? That no one has any time frame of when you need to arrive. It's just being mindful that there is an invitation there for you, and it will always be there. Source will always be there the day that you're ready to connect. No judgment, no questions, just there with open arms to connect with you. And that's what's beautiful about this journey, right? And before we completely close, I do want to give you two ladies a chance to, Kelly, talk a little bit about where your studio's at, a little bit of your services, and then Letty as well.
Okay, so I have a website, airfireartistry.com, that you can visit, and I take appointments for spiritual guide readings and energy clearing at a studio in Old Town Salinas. So if you're a local, I can meet with you, or if you are from another town, I do online sessions, and you could just contact me through my website.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm available on Dolores Cannon QHHT's website under a practitioner, Letty Olguin. And that's how you could set up an appointment with me for a past life regression.
Beautiful. I invite all of our listeners to check out their services. Are both equally powerful. I have statements because I've done it myself, and it's amazing what they can offer the community, even if you're not from Salinas, because we do have a lot of listeners out of Salinas. You could still book your services online. I've done online even though I live here, and it's equally as powerful. So I invite all of you to check them out. And of course, as always, you can find us at Unlocking Our Code podcast, and we hope you tune in to the next one. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Bye.